Captain Elias adjusted the straps of his suit as the landing pod settled on the glowing surface of Zephyra 7. The planet shimmered with colors he had never seen before. Purple mist swirled above the jagged mountains, and floating islands hovered, in the sky glowing faintly. His heart raced with both fear and excitement. Humans had explored many worlds, but this one felt different. Alive. He stepped out of the pod, boots crunching on crystal-like soil. The air hummed with energy. Sensors on his suit picked up strange readings, a form of energy he could not identify. He was here to study it, to understand it, but he could not shake the feeling that he was being watched. From the corner of his vision, he saw her. She moved like a shadow across the glowing plains, tall and graceful, her hair flowing with the color of molten silver. Her eyes were sharp, glowing like amber. Every movement she made seemed to pulse with energy, and Elias felt a strange pull toward her. "You shouldn't be here," a voice said. It was soft but commanding, like a melody that cut through the hum of the planet. Elias froze. She stepped closer, revealing herself fully. She was an alien, unlike anything he had ever seen. Her skin shimmered like liquid metal, and her hands ended in delicate fingers that glowed faintly at the tips. She wore an ornate outfit that looked ceremonial, yet practical for movement. Elias could see the raw energy around her, like a faint halo. "I am Princess Lyra," she said. Her eyes locked on him, and he felt an invisible pressure, a warning that went beyond words. "Touch me again, and I will drain you, human." Elias's chest tightened. The words were clear, and the threat was unmistakable. Yet he did not move back. His training told him to be careful, to respect boundaries, but curiosity burned inside him. I'm not here to harm you," he said, keeping his hands visible. "I only want to understand this world, and the energy readings I detected. You are part of that, I think." Lyra's eyes narrowed. "Humans. You are reckless and stubborn. Energy is life. One careless touch, and you will lose more than you can imagine." Elias nodded slowly. "I understand. I promise I won't touch you." For a moment, the air was still. Only the faint hum of the planet could be heard. Elias could feel the power radiating from her, almost like a living force. Every step she took seemed to shift the light around her. "I warn you, human," she said again, "do not underestimate me. My kind does not forgive foolishness." "I'm not afraid," Elias replied, trying to sound calm. Truthfully, he felt a mix of fear and awe. "I want to learn, not fight." Lyra studied him for a long moment. Then, almost imperceptibly, she relaxed her stance. "Curiosity is dangerous. It can get you killed. Yet, I sense something different in you. You do not seek to drain me, to use me. That is unusual." Elias took a cautious step closer, careful not to break her invisible boundary. "I respect your rules," he said. "I just want to observe. Maybe help if I can." She tilted her head. "Help? Humans and aliens rarely understand each other. Most only bring destruction." "I don't want to destroy anything," he said softly. "I've seen wonders across the galaxy. I've learned that understanding comes first. Fear comes second." For the first time, Lyra's expression softened. Not much, just enough that Elias could see a hint of vulnerability behind her fierce exterior. It was subtle, almost hidden, but it made him even more curious. Suddenly the ground shook. Small crystals cracked underfoot, and the hum of the air became louder, more chaotic. Elias grabbed his communicator. "Control, I'm experiencing seismic activity." Lyra raised her hand. "Stay back," she warned. "This is natural. It is dangerous for you, human." Elias hesitated but did not move. He wanted to study, to understand, but he also trusted her instincts. The ground rumbled again, and a small wave of energy surged through the air, bending light around them. "You are braver than most," Lyra said, her voice almost a whisper. "Or perhaps foolish." Elias smiled faintly. Maybe a little of both. Lyra stepped closer, but not too close. I cannot. Allow contact, my energy. It will harm you if you touch me. This is a warning you must never forget. I understand, he said. But inside, he felt a strange pull. Not just curiosity about her, but about what she truly was. About what humans and aliens could learn from each other. For a while, they stood in silence, observing the shifting light of the planet. Lyra seemed to study him as much as he studied her. Elias could see the tension in her posture, the controlled energy that could be deadly in a single touch. Why do you stay? She asked finally. Why do you not run as others do? Because I want to understand, Elias said honestly. Because I feel maybe humans and your kind are not so different. We can learn from each other. Lyra's eyes softened slightly. Few humans say that. Most see only power, not respect. Elias nodded. Then I will try to show you respect. I will not touch. I will not interfere. But I will observe and learn. She considered him for a moment, then gave a slight nod. You may stay, for now. But know this. The moment you cross the line, you will regret it. Elias swallowed, feeling the weight of her words. The warning was clear, yet he could not step away completely. Something about her presence was magnetic, drawing him closer in thought if not in touch. As the sky shifted to a deeper purple and the floating islands glimmered like distant stars, Elias realized that this was only the beginning. The human heart, he knew, often sought connection even where danger lay, and on this strange, glowing world, that drive would be tested in ways neither he nor Princess Lyra could yet imagine. For now, he stayed, curious, cautious, and aware of the invisible line he must never cross. The air on Zyphira 7 shimmered with a strange intensity. Captain Elias adjusted his suit, scanning the glowing landscape for unusual energy patterns. He kept his distance from Princess Lyra, remembering her warning. Yet every instinct told him she was not just powerful. She was extraordinary. Lyra observed him from a distance, her eyes sharp and cautious. She did not like humans close to her, yet she sensed something in Elias. He did not seek to take advantage of her. Unlike the explorers she'd encountered before, he showed respect. That small difference made her curious. Suddenly, the ground shook violently beneath them. Crystalline shards cracked and scattered like tiny stars. Elias stumbled, but regained his balance. His sensors blared warnings about energy fluctuations. Lyra's posture stiffened. A plasma storm is coming, she said, her voice calm but urgent. You cannot survive it outside your pod. Return. I can handle it, Elias said. He did not want to retreat, not when he was so close to understanding the planet's energy. No, human, Lyra snapped, her voice sharper than before. This storm is not ordinary. Its energy is lethal. The wind picked up, carrying sparks of light that danced like fireflies. Elias noticed the storm forming faster than expected, swirling over the floating islands above. The storm's energy seemed alive, drawn toward Lyra. He realized it was not just weather, it was reacting to her presence. Without thinking, Elias moved toward her. I'm not leaving you here alone, he shouted over the growing roar. Lyra's eyes widened. You are reckless, step back. But Elias had already reached her side. The storm's energy surged, cracking the ground beneath them. He grabbed her hand, not to touch, but to guide her to safer ground. Lyra tensed, but the iodized human grip was steady, not harmful. Hold on, he yelled as they jumped over a fissure that split the crystal plane. Sparks of raw energy sizzled around them, but Elias's presence seemed to calm the worst of it. They landed on a stable patch of ground. Lyra took a deep breath, steadying her energy. She looked at Elias, astonished. How? Your energy, it resists the storm. Elias shook his head. I don't know. Maybe humans are just different. Lyra studied him, her eyes narrowing in thought. For centuries, her kind had believed that no other being could handle her energy safely, and yet here was a human, Steady, brave, and most importantly, respectful. You are unusual, human, she said finally. Most beings would have panicked or fled. You survive because you do not fear me. Why? Fear doesn't help anyone, Elias replied simply. I focus on understanding, on acting. Panic is useless. Lyra's expression softened slightly, almost imperceptibly. She had been trained all her life to be feared, to keep others away. No one had ever come close and shown this kind of courage. The storm continued to roar in the distance, sending occasional arcs of energy toward them. Elias looked up at the floating islands. We need to move to shelter. Can you guide me? Lyra hesitated. Trusting a human with her knowledge was dangerous. If he misused it, the storm could become deadly. Yet something in his gaze convinced her. Something human. Follow me, she said, leading him through a narrow path between crystal spires. Her energy flared slightly to shield them from minor arcs of plasma. Elias watched, amazed at how controlled her power was. She moved like a dancer, precise and graceful even in the chaos. As they reached a cavern-like opening beneath a floating island, the storm's fury intensified. Sparks of energy struck the crystal floor, sending shards flying. Elias ducked instinctively, feeling the raw power around them. Stay close, Lyra instructed. If the storm finds a gap in your defense, it will overwhelm you. I'm right here, he said, adjusting his suit to absorb minor energy shocks. Inside the cavern, the storm's energy could not reach them fully, but faint tremors shook the ground. Elias looked around at the glowing walls, noting energy embedded in the crystal. This cave. The morning light on Zephyra 7 bathed the floating islands in shades of gold and violet. Captain Elias adjusted his equipment as he followed Princess Lyra across a narrow bridge of crystalline rock. The storm from the previous day had left traces of energy in the air, glowing faintly like sparks caught in sunlight. Lyra moved with her usual grace, her energy barely contained, flaring slightly with every step. Elias kept a careful distance, remembering her warning. Yet every time he looked at her, he felt an inexplicable pull, a mix of curiosity, respect, and something deeper he could not name. I can sense energy readings ahead, Elias said, pointing to a cluster of floating crystals. They seem unstable. Lyra's eyes narrowed. They are remnants of the old Guardian's energy, dangerous if disturbed. You must be careful. Elias nodded. I will. But we need to investigate. It might explain why the storms are becoming more frequent. As they approached the crystals, a sudden tremor shook the ground beneath them. One of the floating shards cracked and fell, striking the cavern floor near Elias. Sparks of energy flew toward Lyra. She moved to intercept, but her concentration wavered. Watch out! Elias shouted. Lyra stumbled, her energy flaring uncontrollably. The air around her shimmered violently, sending arcs of light toward the crystal floor. Elias ran to her side. His suit's sensors flared warnings, detecting dangerous energy levels. You cannot control it alone, he said. Let me help. Lyra shook her head, but before she could react, a piece of floating crystal struck her shoulder. She cried, out, stumbling back. The energy around her surged wildly, creating a storm of light in the cavern. Elias had no time to hesitate. He reached out and grabbed her arm, not harshly but firmly, steadying her. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. Lyra's eyes widened and her energy flared around them like a halo. Elias felt a strange warmth, not harmful, but powerful. His heart raced. He had touched her despite her warning. You dare, Lyra gasped, pulling slightly back. I warned you. Human. I know, Elias said calmly, but you needed help. I couldn't just stand by. Lyra's energy swirled dangerously, but something unexpected happened. Instead of harming him, the energy seemed to stabilize. The chaotic arcs of light softened, and the storm of power around her calmed. Elias blinked in surprise. Your energy, it's stable now. That's unusual. Lyra's eyes widened. Impossible, she whispered. Humans. You. How? I don't know, Elias admitted, holding her arm gently. Maybe it's because I'm here, not afraid, not trying to use it. Maybe trust matters. Lyra stared at him, a mix of astonishment and confusion in her gaze. Her entire life had been about control and caution. No one, no matter how skilled, had ever survived her energy at such close range. Yet here was a human, steady, calm, and respectful. For a moment, the tension between them faded. Elias kept his grip gentle, careful not to provoke her power. Lyra's breathing slowed and the glow around her dimmed to a soft shimmer. You are different, she said quietly. Most beings would have been consumed instantly. Yet, you endure. Why? Because I respect you, Elias said simply. Not just your power, but you. I want to help, not harm. I want to understand, not control. Lyra studied him in silence. The cave around them was calm now. The crystals, reflecting a gentle light. She had faced countless threats, but nothing had made her pause like this human. Something in him resonated with her energy in a way no other being had. This is dangerous, she said finally. You should have been hurt. You should have been drained. And yet, you are not. How can this be? Elias shook his head. I don't know. Maybe it's something humans can do that others cannot. Maybe it's because I respect the life in you, not just the power. Lyra's shoulders relaxed slightly. She still kept a cautious distance, but the fear that had always separated her from others was replaced, at least partly, by curiosity. You may be the first human, the first being, who can interact with my energy safely, she admitted. Her voice was almost a whisper. Perhaps there is more to you than I expected. Elias smiled faintly. Maybe we can learn from each other. Maybe humans and your kind can understand one another, even when it seems impossible. Lyra looked at him, her glowing eyes reflecting both caution and wonder. Perhaps, she said slowly. Perhaps. But this changes nothing. You must still respect my boundaries. One wrong step and it could all be over. I understand, Elias said, and I promise, no unnecessary risks. But when danger comes, I won't hesitate to help. She studied him for a long moment. Then almost imperceptibly she nodded. You have earned a fraction of my trust. That is rare. For the first time, Elias felt that the impossible barrier between them had shifted. The human and the alien, so different in form and energy, had found a point of connection. It was fragile, yes, but real. Let's continue, Lyra said finally, moving toward the cluster of crystals. Her energy remained calm, almost controlled. Elias followed carefully, watching her movements and sensing the subtle changes in her aura. As they examined the ancient energy nodes, Elias realized that this moment, this touch, was more than physical. It was a bridge between two worlds, two species, two ways of understanding life itself. Lyra too felt it. She had issued her warning, and yet here she was, standing beside a human who had reached out when others would have run. His presence had stabilized her energy, and more importantly, it had opened something inside her she did not yet fully understand. The cavern glowed softly as the storm's remnants faded, leaving only the quiet hum of raw power in the crystals. Both of them knew the danger had not passed, but for the first time they faced it together. And in that shared moment, the boundaries between human and alien, fear and trust, caution and courage, began to blur. Elias had reached out, and for the first time, the alien princess had allowed herself to be reached. The morning on Zephyr 7 was calm, but the tension between Captain Elias and Princess Lyra remained. They walked carefully across the glowing plains, the floating islands casting long shadows over the crystal terrain. The remnants of the plasma storm had left faint traces of energy flickering across the landscape. Lyra moved with her usual grace, but her eyes betrayed a flicker of unease. Elias noticed it immediately. He had seen her handle dangerous energy with precision, yet now she seemed thoughtful, almost troubled. "You have faced my energy and survived," Lyra said quietly, breaking the silence. "It is unusual. Most beings are consumed instantly. You are different, human." Elias nodded, walking beside her. "I've learned that respect matters. Not just fear, not just caution. Respect keeps us alive and sometimes helps us understand." Lyra glanced at him. "Perhaps, but understanding comes with risk, and my life has been full of danger." Elias looked curious. "Your life? You mean before today?" Lyra stopped and sighed, her energy dimming slightly. "I am a guardian. I was trained from birth to protect my world, to control my energy, to be feared, to never allow anyone to come close. Weakness or trust were never allowed." Elias listened carefully. "That must have been lonely." Lyra's eyes flickered. "It was. I was always alone. Even my own kind, and they feared what I could do. That is why the council warned me about humans. They believed no being could match me or survive me." Elias nodded slowly. "And yet here we are. I am alive. You are here with me. Maybe humans are not as weak or reckless as others think." Lyra's gaze softened, but only slightly. "You may be the first to understand that, but understanding is not enough. Others will seek to use my energy. They will try to control me. You must know, humans are rare in your world. Most would run or try to exploit what you can give." Elias frowned. "Then we'll make sure that doesn't happen. I won't let anyone harm you, princess. Not while I can help." She regarded him silently for a moment, considering his words. "Your courage, it is unusual, but do not mistake it for wisdom. The dangers you do not yet see, they will come, and you must be prepared." As if on cue, a distant rumble echoed across the plains. Lyra stiffened, her energy flaring slightly. In warning, Elias followed her gaze and saw dark shapes approaching on the horizon. They were not natural. They moved with precision, their forms sleek and alien, unlike anything he had seen. "Rival factions," Lyra said grimly. "They have learned of your presence, of us together. They seek to capture me, to exploit my power." Elias's heart tightened. "Then we have to move. We can't wait for them to reach us." Lyra nodded. "You do not yet understand. My energy is not for them, but they will try. They are clever, ruthless. We must be careful." Together, they moved swiftly toward a narrow pass between two floating islands, the path glowing faintly beneath their feet. Elias followed closely, keeping an eye on the advancing threat. The alien shapes moved with unnatural speed, adjusting to every fluctuation in the terrain. "They will try to separate us," Lyra said, her voice low but urgent. "If they succeed, your life will be in danger, human, and my power will be used against all life here." "I understand," Elias said. "Then we'll stay together. We'll face them as one." Lyra glanced at him, a flicker of something almost like admiration in her eyes. "You are persistent. Perhaps that is why you survived the storm. Perhaps that is why you remain here, when others would run." The advancing figures drew closer. Elias could see their sleek armor, the faint hum of energy weapons mounted on their arms. They were clearly trained for combat, and their purpose while the glow of Zephyra 7's floating islands bathed the landscape in soft violet light as Captain Elias and Princess Lyra advanced toward the central energy nodes. The crystal planes shimmered beneath their feet, reflecting their cautious movements. The previous encounters had strengthened their bond, yet both knew danger was far from over. Lyra's energy hummed faintly around her, a subtle reminder of the power she could unleash. Elias kept a careful distance, but he remained close enough to respond instantly. Their silent coordination had become instinctive. He no longer felt fear in her presence, only a quiet respect and a sense of responsibility. "They are close," Lyra said quietly, her eyes scanning the horizon. The rival faction has regrouped. They are faster now, more organized. We must prepare. Elias nodded. Then we stay together. Nothing will separate us. The first attack came suddenly. Dark shapes emerged from the shadows of the floating islands, moving with speed and precision. Energy weapons glimmered along their arms, aimed directly at Lyra. Elias raised his arm instinctively, activating his suit's shielding. "Move!" Lyra commanded, flaring her energy to form a protective barrier. Sparks danced along the crystal floor as the first volley of energy struck. Elias ducked and rolled, pushing a shard of crystal to deflect the nearest attacker. "You adapt quickly," Lyra said, her voice barely audible over the clash. "Few humans can keep pace with this level of danger." "I told you," Elias replied, "humans survive by thinking, not just reacting." Another figure lunged from the side, faster and more skilled than the first. Elias grabbed a crystal pillar, swinging it into the attacker's path. Lyra's energy shot forward in a controlled burst, sending the alien stumbling back. Their coordination was almost instinctive now, human ingenuity and alien power working as one. "Stay close," Lyra shouted, moving toward a narrow path between two energy nodes. "They will try to separate us." Elias followed, noting the patterns of the attackers. They were clever, adapting to their every move. But so were they. Each strike they faced was countered with precision. Each trap they encountered was turned to advantage. The humans' flexibility complemented the aliens' raw power. One of the attackers managed to break through the protective barrier, moving dangerously close to Lyra. Elias acted without hesitation. He lunged forward, pushing the intruder back, with a combination of physical force and quick thinking. Lyra's energy flared instantly, striking the attacker with a controlled blast that sent them tumbling into the crystals. "You are reckless," Lyra exclaimed, her eyes narrowing, though she did not scold him for long. "But you survive because you think. You survive because you care." Elias caught his breath. "Someone has to care," he said simply. "And I do." The fight intensified as more attackers emerged. They moved in coordinated groups, trying to surround them. Elias noticed the strategy and quickly devised a plan. Using the reflective crystals on the plains, they created illusions and distractions. Light bent around them, confusing the attackers and making it difficult for them to strike accurately. Lyra's energy complemented his tactics, redirecting attacks and shielding their movements. Together, they moved as one, anticipating each other's actions. The bond between them was no longer fragile, it had become a source of strength. "You trust me," Lyra said quietly in a brief pause between waves of attackers. "Most would have perished before learning that." "I trust you too," Elias replied. "We are stronger together. That is why we survive." One final attacker broke through their defenses, moving directly toward Lyra with a weapon charged with raw energy. Elias reacted instantly. He threw himself in front of her, using his body to block the attack while redirecting the energy toward a crystal wall. The force of the blast shook the ground, sending shards flying, but both emerged unharmed. Lyra stared at him, a mixture of shock and admiration in her eyes. "You are extraordinary, human. I underestimated you. Perhaps I underestimated humans as a whole." Elias smiled faintly, brushing dust from his suit. "Maybe. Or maybe we just adapt." The remaining attackers, seeing their companions defeated and the humans' coordination unbreakable, retreated into the shadows. The crystal plains grew quiet, the glow of the energy nodes reflecting the calm after the storm. Lyra exhaled slowly, her energy settling. "You survived. You stood by me when others would have fled, and you protected me when danger was closest. That earns my respect." "You earned my trust too," Elias said. "Without you guiding me, I could not have done any of this." Lyra's gaze softened slightly, her energy glowing faintly with a new warmth. "Perhaps humans are capable of more than I believed. Your courage, your resilience, it is remarkable." Elias nodded. We survive because we care, Princess. Because we think, because we act, because we refuse to give up. For the first time, Lyra allowed herself to feel a quiet relief. The danger had tested not only their skills but also their trust. Elias had proven that humans were not just fragile beings to be feared or underestimated. They were clever, adaptable, and capable of facing challenges with courage. The sun began to set over the glowing plains, casting long shadows across the crystal landscape. Elias and Lyra stood side by side, breathing heavily but unharmed. The bond between them had grown stronger, forged through trust and shared danger. Tomorrow, Lyra said softly, we must prepare for what comes next. The Council will not ignore what they have seen. The factions may return stronger and more determined. I am ready, Elias said confidently. Whatever comes, we face it together. Lyra looked at him, her glowing eyes reflecting both caution and a hint of admiration. Together? Yes. Perhaps there is hope, even in the most unlikely places. As night fell, the floating islands shimmered in the moonlight, casting gentle reflections across the crystal plains. Elias and Lyra knew their challenges were far from over, but for the first time, they faced them as a true team. The human had proven his courage. The alien princess had begun to trust him. And together, they were ready to face the future, whatever dangers it might hold. The morning on Zyphira 7 was calm, almost serene. The crystal plains reflected the soft glow of the twin suns, creating streaks of violet and gold across the floating islands. Captain Elias and Princess Lyra stood side by side, surveying the energy nodes that had drawn them deeper into the planet's mysteries. The attacks from rival factions had ended, at least for now, but both knew the danger was not over. Lyra's energy shimmered gently around her, no longer threatening, but still vibrant and alive. She had learned to control it even after the chaos of battle, and Elias could sense her confidence growing. Yet there was a new understanding between them, a bond forged through shared danger and mutual respect. You have proven yourself, Lyra said quietly, her glowing eyes meeting his. Not only in strength but in judgment. I underestimated humans. Perhaps I underestimated you. Elias shook his head. It's not about underestimating. It's about working together. We survived because we trusted each other, and because we adapted to the situation. That's what humans do. Lyra studied him for a long moment. Her kind had always relied on raw power and fear to maintain control. To see a human navigate danger with intelligence, courage, and care, it was something she had not expected, something remarkable. You have changed my view, she admitted softly. Humans are not merely fragile beings. They are clever, resilient, and capable of trust. Elias smiled faintly. And you, Princess, have shown that even the strongest can learn to rely on others. Even the most powerful need allies. Lyra's gaze softened, though her energy still glimmered faintly with controlled power. Perhaps, together, humans and my kind could achieve more than we imagined. But the Council, they will not accept this lightly. They fear the unknown. Then we show them, Elias said firmly. We show them what can happen when courage and respect meet. When we work together, not against each other. They began, moving toward the central energy nexus, the heart of the planet's power. The crystal nodes pulsed faintly with energy, reacting to their presence. Elias watched in awe as Lyra guided him carefully, explaining how the energy flowed and how it could be stabilized. This energy, she said, is not meant to be controlled by one being alone. It thrives when shared, when balanced. You have contributed to that balance. Elias nodded. Then we maintain it, together. As they approached the largest node, a sudden surge of energy erupted from the crystal formations. Sparks of light danced across the plains, reflecting in Elias's visor. Lyra's eyes widened and her energy flared instinctively. Hold on, she shouted, moving to shield Elias from the blast. The energy was powerful, more chaotic than anything they had faced before. Elias acted quickly. He adjusted his suit, using its shielding capabilities to complement her energy. Together, they formed a controlled barrier, redirecting the raw power into the surrounding crystal nodes. The light surged and pulsed, but neither was harmed. Lyra exhaled slowly, stabilizing her energy. "Remarkable," she said, a faint smile forming. "Your presence, it calms the chaos. I cannot explain it, but your being here helps control my power." Elias felt a warmth spread through him. "Maybe it's because we trust each other," he said. "Maybe it's because we work as a team, not as strangers." For the first time, Lyra allowed herself a small gesture of closeness. She did not touch him directly, but she moved within his personal space without tens.